Hi, we're in Brad's office and we're doing some post-production, and before you watch today's presentation, there's a few things that I have to make very clear. First, recently we did our Halloween special, and based on reading the commentary, it became obvious that a lot of people inferred that I was saying something about the Alec Baldwin situation. No, I wasn't. You have to remember that these presentations are filmed anywhere from 4 days to 4 weeks before you actually see them. The Halloween special was filmed about 10 days before the Alec Baldwin situation occurred. Nothing I said or did was commentary on that situation. And that brings me to today's presentation. Recently, a viewer sent me a couple of different types of .44 special ammunition, so we shot it and we tested it. But I had to have some sort of basis of comparison. So I compared that ammo to a couple of types of .44 special ammo that I've had for over a year, some made by Speer and some made by Hornady. Remember that today's presentation was filmed quite a while before the recent unpleasantness at Hornady. So when you see me using Hornady ammunition today, you should not infer any endorsement of or comment on the situation at Hornady. And above all, two things. One, all we're doing is testing ammunition today. Please leave the politics out of it. And two, if you insist on accusing me of saying or doing something, please put a little effort into actually knowing what you're talking about. Okay, on to today's presentation. Hi, we're out on our range today, and once again we're talking about .44 Special. We have a presentation titled .44 Special that is very long and very detailed if you want the long story. But today what we're doing is comparing a couple of different types of ammunition. A viewer sent me these, asked me to test them, so that's what we're going to do. And what he sent me was Underwood Superior High Performance Extreme Defender Ammunition .44 Special 125 grain projectile, and Black Hills Ammunition Honey Badger Ammo .44 Special 125 grain projectile. We'll shoot these side by side, compare them with a couple of other types of .44 Special ammunition, see how they stack up. And let's start with a close-up look at what this ammunition looks like. From your left to right, we have 9x19, 40 Smith & Wesson, 38 Special, .44 Special, .44 Magnum, and .45 ACP. You can see that .44 Special is almost as big as .44 Magnum, but it's not nearly as powerful. The ammunition we're evaluating today are these two. Here's your Extreme Defender, which is a 125 grain projectile, and as far as I know, it's pure copper. And the projectile is shaped kind of like a Phillips head screwdriver that's been cut off. Our Honey Badger ammunition also has a 125 grain projectile, which, as far as I know, is all copper. And the projectile looks similar to the Extreme Defender, but not quite the same. When you buy .44 Special ammunition, it's very common that you have bullet weights from 200 to 240 grains. Both our Underwood ammunition and our Black Hills ammunition have 125 grain projectiles. When you have projectile weights that are that far outside the scope of what would be considered typical, sometimes that will affect the size of your group, sometimes it will affect the location of your group, sometimes both. Let's set up a target and see what kind of results we get with these. So I have our radioactive reactionary target, and I'm going to shoot this from 15 yards with my Ruger GP100 with a 3-inch barrel. And to start with, as a basis of comparison, I have this loaded with .44 Special 240 grain lead semi-wad cutter. I fired 5 shots. This one up here is a flyer. That's just me. Yes, that is very annoying. So we'll call these 4 the group, and that's mediocre. Now I'll put up a new reactionary target. I'll go back 15 yards and shoot it with our Underwood Superior High Performance ammunition, and we'll see how the groups compare both for size and location. Well, this target shows us two things. One, the location of our group has shifted significantly. Two, it's not a very good group. We see the three shots here. One nicked the bottom of the paper, one significantly low. I'll put up a new reactionary target and we'll try this again with our Black Hills ammunition and see if we do any better. Well, with the Honey Badger ammunition, we got a much better group than we did with the Underwood, but still not in the same place where our practice ammo hit. Let me try one more type of ammo. So this last type of ammunition I used held a really good group and very close to where the practice ammunition was hitting. So what was it? Hornady Critical Defense 44 Special 165 grain FTX projectile, like a ballistic tip. So let's see what kind of velocities we get with these 125 grain projectiles. Typically when using the chronograph, I'll shoot from a distance of 7 yards. Today I'm going to shoot 4 yards. Looking at the results I was getting on the target, for the health of the chronograph, I'm going to shoot from a closer distance. And we'll start with the Black Hills Honey Badger ammunition. .1142, 1132, 1155, 1145, and 1153. Let's see how that compares to the Underwood. And now our Underwood Extreme Defense, which is also a 125 grain projectile. .1270, 1259, 1284, 1250, and 1248. Now let's try a couple of other types of ammunition. And now let's try Speer Gold Dot 44 Special 200 grain jacketed hollow point. .735, 755, 721, 763, and 745. Let's try one more type of ammo. And now we'll try Hornady Critical Defense 44 Special 165 grain FTX projectile, like a ballistic tip. .1021, 986, 1001, 927, 1007. Now let's go crunch the numbers. Well, I crunched the numbers and here they are. We have our ammunitions, our velocities, and if I did my math correctly, our energy foot-pounds. Now I want to start out by pointing out the Speer Gold Dot ammunition. That's a 200 grain bullet, which gave us a mean velocity of 743. That does not sound very impressive, especially when you consider that it's Speer Gold Dot, which is supposed to be a high-performance ammunition. Okay, again, you can watch our very long, tedious presentation on 44 Special for the long version. But for the short version, 44 Special has been around for 100 years plus. Just exactly when it was introduced depends on which source you read. I've read sources that say 1907, sources that say 1913, but either way, It's an old school low pressure revolver round. And this type of performance is what you would typically see on ammunition 100 years ago. So ammunition of contemporary manufacture has to have chamber pressures that are at least close to the original loadings, so someone does not put new ammunition in an old gun, destroy the gun, and maybe destroy themselves. And this is a problem you see with modern 44 Special ammunition. So with our Honey Badger ammo and our Extreme Defense ammunition, they're loading light bullets, 125 grain, that's very light for 44 Special, so that you can get these much higher velocities without increasing your chamber pressure to prohibitive levels. And when we look at our velocities, we see that our Honey Badger ammunition has a mean velocity of 1145. That's a lot for 44 Special, and it sounds impressive, except that the advertised velocity of this ammunition is 1250. Now our Extreme Defense ammunition, it gives us a mean velocity of 1260, and printed on the box is an advertised velocity of 1250, so this is impressive. When we look at our Hornady Critical Defense ammunition, it has a 165 grain projectile, which gives us a velocity of 988, so as 44 Special goes, that's not bad. But with all the different bullet weights, how do these things translate into energy foot-pounds? Well, we see with our Honey Badger ammunition, 363 energy foot-pounds, which again, sounds impressive until you see that our Extreme Defense ammunition is 442. Our Speer Gold Dot ammunition, even with a 200 grain bullet, it's going so slow, you only have 245 energy foot-pounds. And our Hornady Critical Defense at 357 is not bad. But as I've said so many times, these are just numbers on a page. How will these numbers translate into effectiveness on the intended target? Let's see if we can put that to the test. What we have here is the meat target, and for those who haven't seen it before, the meat target is leather couch skin followed by pork chop pectorals, pork ribs, bags of tangerines to simulate lung tissue. Yeah, they were out of oranges, go figure. More ribs on the back, 4 layers of lab coat on the front, 4 layers on the back, and the whole thing followed by the new and improved high-tech fleece bullet stop. And I'll shoot this from 7 yards with my Ruger GP100, which is loaded with the Black Hills Ammunition Honey Badger ammo. We'll see what kind of results we get. The ribs on the front of the target have 44 caliber holes in them, which are really 42 caliber holes, and where projectiles hit ribs, shattered them. We also see that these projectiles mangled our tangerine lung tissue a little bit, and the ribs on the back of the target just have 42 caliber holes in them. Also, all of our projectiles were stopped by the lab coat on the back of the target or by the first layer of fleece. Now let's take a close-up look at these projectiles. And here's our 3 Honey Badger projectiles, and they have no deformation at all. Now I have a new meat target set up, and I'll shoot this from 7 yards with our Underwood Superior High Performance Extreme Defense ammunition, and let's see what kind of results we get. Now we shot our first meat target with our Honey Badger ammunition, which had a mean velocity of 1145. We shot this one with our Extreme Defense ammunition, which has a mean velocity of 1262, 117 feet per second more. Did we really get any more damage with our greater velocity? Well, our pork chop pectorals seem to have more damage to them. In my subjective evaluation, it looks like our ribs on the front of the target certainly had more damage. As far as damage to our tangerine lung tissue, maybe a little more. Our ribs on the back of the target certainly look like they had more damage. And again, all of our projectiles were stopped by the lab coat on the back of the target or by the first layer of fleece. So looking at this meat target, maybe a little more damage. But now let's take a close-up look at our Extreme Defense projectiles. And our Extreme Defense projectiles have no deformation that I can detect at all. And now we have another meat target set up, and I'll shoot this one from 7 yards with our Speer Gold Dot 200 grain jacketed hollow point. So our conventional jacketed hollow points, propelled at what I would consider rather low velocity, looked like they did quite a bit of damage to the ribs on the front of the target, where projectiles hit ribs, obliterated them. We also seem to have what I would consider a little more damage to our tangerine lung tissue. Now our ribs on the back of the target just have 42 caliber holes in them, and all of the projectiles were stopped by the lab coat on the back of the target. But let's take a look at what our hollow points look like now. And we see that our Spear Gold Dot projectiles have pretty good hollow point expansion. Okay, one more meat target, and I'll shoot this one from 7 yards with our Hornady Critical Defense 165 grain FTX projectile. So with our Hornady Critical Defense ammunition, the ribs on the front of the target have a lot of damage where projectiles hit ribs, annihilated them. We also see some pretty good damage to our tangerine lung tissue, and the ribs on the back of the target where a projectile hit a rib shattered it. Now let's take a close-up look at these projectiles. And here we see our FTX projectiles, like ballistic tips, and here's a couple of the red tips. And we see that our expansion is very good. And all of these were stopped by the lab coat on the back of the target. Now there's one thing to add. You may notice that my Beretta 92FS is in a different holster than it typically is. The people at CYTAC, if I'm pronouncing that right, CYTAC, sent me a couple of holsters, asked me to evaluate them. We'll do a presentation on them in the near future. Right now I'm still in the process of getting accustomed to it. But what were the takeaways from everything we saw here today? Well, in shooting the target, we saw that the Extreme Defense ammunition did not hit in the same place as the practice ammo, and it did not hold a good group. The Honey Badger ammunition also did not hit in the same place as the practice ammunition, but at least it held an impressive group. Now, in terms of effectiveness on the meat target, both the Honey Badger and the Extreme Defense ammunition are, by 44 Special standards, quite powerful. However, they didn't really seem to outperform more conventional ammunitions like the Jacketed Hollow Point or the FTX projectile. Now, side note, we saw that the Spear Gold Dot ammunition performed very well today. In general, I've gotten good performance from Spear Gold Dot. However, specifically in caliber 44 Special, on previous occasions I've shot the meat target with Spear Gold Dot and got very poor performance, got almost no hollow point expansion. So maybe I was using a bad lot of ammunition, and today we had a good lot. But if you get down to the bottom line of the question being, is the Honey Badger or the Extreme Defense ammunition the right ammo for you? Only you can judge. Is it the right ammunition for me? I'm going to say this. I have not tested every type of 44 Special ammunition on the market, but I have tested quite a few of them. And as far as the performance that I've gotten out of my Ruger GP100, Hornady Critical Defense has consistently been the best performing ammo. So are either of our ammunitions we tested today the right ammo for me? No. So as always, don't try this at home on what you call a professional, and thanks for watching the Honey Badger and Extreme Defense 44 Special ammunition video.